Good afternoon. Welcome to Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network. It is Tuesday, May 29th. Happy to be back in studio. Frank Granito alongside Kevin Coleman and John Kovac, fresh out of the holiday, fresh out of the FCAC postseason, and the state tournament is underway, gentlemen.
Yeah, we had a great weekend past week. A lot of great FCAC postseason games we had on the schedule. Girls Lax was exciting. Boys Lax, what a finish that was on Friday, John. We really had ourselves a great week.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm ready to close the book yet on
Seriously.
that FCAC season after the two championship games that we had that really were worthy of games determining a conference champ.
I thought they were some of the best games we had seen all year, but at the end of the day, the result in lacrosse just refuses to change. For the fifth time in as many years, Darien boys are champions of the conference, and for the seventh consecutive season, the Darien Blue Wave are your FCAC girls lacrosse champions. At this point in time, it's borderline becoming unfair, but at the same time, it is equally as impressive watching these runs happen.
Yeah, you're right. It's unfair, but it's so impressive to watch year in and year out this Darien boys and girls programs for lacrosse just continue to dominate the conference and the state. For the girls, just year after year, they're getting contributions this year from not only upperclassmen, they're getting contributions, John, from freshmen, sophomores. Look at the Humphrey sisters. They're making big plays. And on the boys side, again, it's just another season with lots of loaded talent on the boys team.
But it was, I mean, a razor's edge from not being, let's say, unfair.
Yeah.
From both of those dynasties had to fight to claim the 2018 titles in their respective sports. These were both very good, tight games that could have gone either way.
You know, John, it was funny. After the boys' game, I was talking to Coach Braymeyer, and I said, "Coach, how you feeling right now?" He goes, "Wow, I feel like an idiot for taking that time out with 2 minutes left. Boy, that almost didn't pay off for me." But again, Jeff Braymeyer, Coach Lindley, bringing back another conference championship back to Darien High School. It's so impressive what these two coaches have done.
Did you remember we talked to Coach Lisa Lindley earlier in the season, and she was already looking ahead saying, well, it's unbelievable what this group is doing, and we're going to graduate some big names who have made an impact over their 4 years here. But think about how high she is on the next group of girls that are coming up in the next 2 years, and it's scary to think about right now because it's a Wilton class. This is arguably going to be one of the most talented Wilton classes we've seen in recent history, and they're just stuck coming up just short right now. But it's tough to see them getting much better next year compared to what they accomplished this season, and still a good chance moving forward in the state tournament. New Canaan, they're in a bit of an awkward position right now because they're going to lose a couple of big seniors in Julia Ozimek, Braden Dial, Carly Bucci, and what they've done. And again, you're staring at Darien they're going to reload and be ready to go again, if not better, moving into next year.
I think the scarier part about all this, Frank, is you're bringing back the Humphrey sisters.
Yeah.
Nicole's going to be a senior. Ashley's going to be a junior. I mean, the two of them alone, as junior and sophomores this season, what they did in this tournament was so impressive, and they're only going to get better too. You get Nicole coming into her senior year. This is really going to be fun to watch those two go back at it next year.
They're unstoppable right now together.
Well, what we're seeing happen, as you were both saying, these other schools wait and develop a senior class that comes up and they're ready to take on Darien, and then they fall short, and that team that wins, that Darien team wins, and it has so many underclassmen just ready to step up, and it's just, no pun intended, wave after wave after wave, and you build a senior class and you've got a senior laden team, they fall just short, and then you're back to square one. You're trying to get that next big class that comes in. You're trying to get 4 athletes from each class to step up, and you just can't do it. Well, Darien just keeps sliding the playing pieces into place.
Let's stick with that girls tournament right now. 11-10, the final in girls lacrosse. Wilton had leads in the second half. They got it up to 9-8. They led 8-7 early on after going on a little run between the end of the first half and into the start of the second. But in the end, the experience of Darien, just too much. Katie Ramsey ends up getting the championship winning goal. For me, I think what really stood out was the maturity and the experience of the Blue Wave took over in the end. They got possession of the ball, and it just became a simple, all right, let's get it to our athletes. They understood how to properly run out the clock. And then you've got poor Paisley Egan gets assessed 2 penalties in the final 5 minutes of this game. So not only are you trying to get Darien off possession, but you're doing it a man down. And I think that, with about 5 minutes, became the difference in Wilton not being able to overcome this one.
It's disappointing, too, because Paisley Egan, I mean, you look throughout that game, that first half and the third quarter, she was one of the best players on the field alone, and she had a great FCIAC tournament, a great talent for the Wilton Warriors. Eva Greco was excellent in the FCIAC tournament in the draw control as well. It's disappointing. I know this is going to sting for the Warriors, but I still think they have the great opportunity now to bounce back, do some big things in the state tournament. And you're right, for Darien, Maggie Brooks coming up some big saves down the stretch as well. She earned the MVP of the tournament. Really well deserved, I think, for Maggie Brooks. But a terrific finish, a wild finish. I think I had everyone on the edge of their seat. It was just a really fun night over there at Norwalk High School.
It was a game that went down to the wire, and as we anticipated, draw control was huge, but it ended up being Paisley Egan showing her versatility and getting in there and kind of starting to dominate the draws. Well, Darien just finished a couple more possessions than Wilton did.
Yeah, I mean, we talked so much about Eva Greco leading up to the game and the impact she had in the first meeting between these two schools, in their win over New Canaan, what she had done. Paisley Egan was almost sliding under the radar. Remember, she came in as the team's leading goal scorer in the tournament. She continued to shine offensively. You mentioned Maggie Brooks. I thought on the Wilton side, Zoe Lash and Bridget Wall combined to play a very strong game in net. They're going to bring back Wall next year. A big player to keep an eye on moving forward in the future is going to be Sophia Sudano. I thought she played really, really well and had an impact on the game. In the end, it was just Darien too much. But now you move forward here, and this is something that's a bit of a shame. In the girls lacrosse bracket, you've got Darien, Wilton, and New Canaan all on the same side of the bracket. Wilton and New Canaan are scheduled, if they can beat Shelton and Glastonbury, respectively, to play in the quarterfinals, and the winner of that would take on Darien if they continue to roll how we expect. But Darien also playing Staples in the first round of the Class L tournament, and Ludlow on that same side playing against Newtown. You've got all these FCIAC teams sandwiched together on one side of the bracket. On the other side, obviously, there's Greenwich, Ridgefield, and Ward. It's unfortunate, though, now we're looking at another tournament where FCIAC schools are going to start to poach each other off. Yeah,
I was talking to Caroline Colonel of the Richfield Tigers last week over at Testa Field. She was checking out the semifinal games. And, you know, for the Tigers, they got that quarterfinal exit from Greenwich early on. And, you know, for Colonel as a senior, she was disappointed, but she's motivated. The Richfield Tigers want to meet the Greenwich Cardinals again in the state tournament. And they had the opportunity to. And I'm telling you, this Tigers team is going to be hungry coming into the state tournament.
It's funny, and if you're Greenwich, the last team in the world, John, that you want to see again right now, not right now, is the Ridgefield Tigers. But that'll be a good matchup down there, and you've got to figure being that 3-6 number right now, you're on the opposite side of Darien. It's the right place to be in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great end of the bracket to be on. The lower half of the bracket, and I can see it going chalk. And I'll tell you what, I'll sign up to go to that Greenwich Ridgefield
100%
meeting again.
You've got that, or you could have the New Canaan Wilton matchup as well in that round, which would be another really good game.
Both good games.
Girls Class L, very crowded. Everyone chasing the Blue Wave again. Congratulations, Darien. 7 straight FCIAC titles in girls lacrosse. Unprecedented. Does not do it justice. We're going to take a quick break here on Nutmeg Sports. When we get back, we look at the boys lacrosse championship game from Friday afternoon at Brian McMahon. That's next on the HN Network.
Get a fresh start to the new year by shaking up your meal routine. Walter Stewart's Market is your local source for a delicious selection of fresh and convenient salad shakers, like Southwest salad with chicken, Cobb with organic chicken, Power Vegan with fruit and quinoa, Greek salad with tabbouleh, and grilled shrimp with hominy. Grab one from our salad case or order from our deli today. Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street, New Canaan, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
Dr. Stephen Molinaro and Peter Healy of Family Practice Dentistry and Laser Dental Care have served Ridgefield for over 22 years. Experienced staff offer gentle drillless techniques, preventative care, and cosmetic procedures in a relaxed environment. Grateful for the community's trust and support through the years, new patients and their families are welcome. Call today. Dr. Steve.
Back on Nutmeg Sports, the Darien Blue Wave taking home the Girls Lacrosse Championship Thursday night. They weren't done Friday. The boys squad playing against their arch rival, New Canaan, in the FCIAC Championship game, looking for a 5th straight FCIAC title, a 73rd straight victory, and I'll admit it, to my surprise, it was much closer than I anticipated on Friday.
That was a really fun afternoon of boys lacrosse there over at Brian McMahon High School. What a fun day that was. Good atmosphere, good weather, and I think you look at these two teams, it was only fitting that New Canaan and Darien go to the final seconds, really. Just a great save by Sean Collins at the end that secured it for Darien.
A great save on a,
Tough
let's
angle.
say, creative shot.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's say improvised shot. And New Canaan having already scored on one of those earlier in the game on just a miraculous shot.
I think we saw one of the best goals of the season, remember, from Quentin O'Connell that bounced off of Owen Shin, his stick to end the quarter. I mean, what a great goal that was, too.
And we saw Darien do what it traditionally does. They put together a run. They score 5 straight in the second quarter. But New Canaan comes back from that. It was, okay, we know you've got that. We know you're going to do that. And instead of Darien pulling away, New Canaan pulled themselves back into the game.
They did. Darien at times didn't help their cause. I mean, Sam Cragen down the stretch, he might as well have been wearing a black jersey at one point in time. He had a drop pass in transition that allowed New Canaan another possession. Then he comes up, they come up with a steal, he gets hit. All Darien has to do is run up the clock. He sprints at the goal, takes a shot from 15 yards out. New Canaan gets another possession. Somehow comes back to Cragen. At this point in time, the ball is not leaving him alone, and he airmails a pass in the midfield. New Canaan gets one more final shot, and Alex Collins had to make a save. Sean Collins had to make a save there. Listen, I don't think the Rams will get as close in the state tournament if they meet Darien again as they did right there. That was their shot, and they had the opportunities, but it was bizarre down the stretch seeing Darien making some of the mistakes they were, because it's not something we're used to seeing.
No, they made the mistakes that typically they force their opponent to make and that they always capitalize on you, and that's how they win these lopsided games. But it was more errant passes from Darien. It was more missed shots, losing the race to the ground ball from time to time. That said, they played extremely well. I thought the defense was stalwart. The rides to keep New Canaan out on the perimeter were effective. Just New Canaan was able to do what it had to do to hang around.
I gained a lot of respect for, obviously, Carl Mazabras in net for the Rams. He had 11 saves. He stepped up big time in this tournament after Bennett Ong suffers that season-ending injury, and now it's Mazabras' net for full games. You know, he really proved himself as a legit goaltender, not only in this league, but in the state. I thought Quinn McMahon did a really good job. Excuse me. Quentin O'Connell.
He's not going to forgive you for that one.
Get out of here. Get out of here, Quinn. Quentin O'Connell in the matchup with Andrew Darby. I did not expect him to do as well as he did after watching Darby completely shut down Connor Drake, who's going to Duke. The future Tar Heel, and Quentin O'Connell then comes out, puts up 4 goals on the defenseman Andrew Darby, and I was a big believer Darby, one of the most underrated players in the state. So big names for the Rams stepped up. In the end, though, the biggest name on the field, Logan McGovern, was the star of this one.
Yeah, it's good to see Logan get back to it. I know he suffered that ankle injury a couple weeks ago. He looked like he was back in the Logan McGovern form, the way we usually see Logan get after it. And to see him back and get big 4 goals in the championship game, talking to him afterwards, I mean, it was so exciting, you know, to see Logan get back to where he usually is, and he played a big part in it. Hudson Picorni, I thought, had a hat trick. I thought he was huge for the Darien Blue Wave. But going back to Carl Mazabras, you're right. huge respect. I think he earned that from Coach Buzzio. 100% in this game, even though it comes up on the losing end. I thought Carl was absolutely stellar. He's got a bright future. He's only going to get better, too.
Listen, the Rams' defense was certainly a strong point in this tournament. They bring back 4 of the key cogs in that group there with Mazabris, Walker Care, George Dumbald, and Jackson Braden. Face-off-wise, Justin Wheatfeld looks like he's going to be a player for the Rams next year. And, of course, O'Connell will come back up front. The freshman, was it Chris Connect? I thought he played really well, along with Ryan Kione as well. Matt Costco, a guy who we saw in the mix out there. So you've got pieces in place that are giving you a bright future. The problem is, are they able to progress as much moving into their senior years? And when it's their time to shine, as we're going to see on the other side of the merit, because you know the next wave for Darien will be just as good. And Q, I do apologize. I got Quinn's ugly mug staring me down from right over there, and I can't get it out of my head. For Darien, moving forward into the tournament now, the state tournament that is, they're going to see Xavier, then possibly Wilton again, and then New Canaan, Ludlow, Staples, or Prep will be looming at the end of that side of the bracket. I just don't think the Blue Wave allowed themselves to play a game this closely again. I think that was a harsh wake-up call. They know they dodged a bullet there with some of the mistakes they made down the stretch, and I think you're looking at a Darien team here that rolls through the state tournament.
I want to bring something. I want to get back to something you just said, and you talked about Justin Wheatfeld on the face-offs, which he shared the duty there. We expected face-offs to be this battle, to be, you know, 1 or 2 each way, but to be even, maybe even lean a little bit toward Darien, and New Canaan just dominated. I think that was key to them keeping it close.
The big thing there, we saw it the first time, and Cravado did not take a lot of the draws, and he had the back issue that was bothering me. You thought, okay, Wheatfeld did a really good job, but Strube probably going to be able to maintain himself in this kind of magnitude of a game. But Cravado came out and was, I mean, just shy of dominant. He probably won close to 80-85% of the draws. So when he's healthy, and I don't believe he has been now for probably 12 months, he finally looks like he did as a sophomore when he was torching everyone in this league. That's going to be a huge thing. And if the Rams get back, Cravado can be successful there again. There's just a couple of goals you've got to limit off of turnovers, off of bad possessions. The Darien players, you know they're going to get theirs. But if you can keep them down around 8-9 goals, you've got a really good shot, especially if O'Connell plays as well as he did. I thought Owen Shin stepped up, played a really good game. And you got to figure they're going to get Ben Conley back by the time, that point in time in the tournament as well. So there's optimism for the Rams there. Don't rule out Josh Evans' Ludlow Falcons tomorrow, though. They seem like a little team of destiny now after just eking another one out with their rival, the Ward Mustangs.
They're just loving the buzzer beaters on
the
road.
It's, again, though, another tournament where you obviously are littered with FCAC teams, and unfortunately they're going to have to pick each other off. Ludlow, New Canaan, they're playing against each other. Winner of that potentially playing Staples or Prep. Darien and Wilton due to meet in the second round. Ridgefield and Trumbull playing in the first round. Greenwich, a surprising story with how badly they beat up on Shelton in that playdown game. Are the Cardinals getting hot at the right time now and maybe figuring this out? And they've got a very favorable draw in this tournament, not seeing an FCAC team before the semifinals.
Hey, talk about, you know, lopsided games in that playdown round. Trumbull
Big shout out to
21-0 over West Haven. Did not see that coming.
Yeah, that's pretty good, and it's a Trumbull team who's a little bitter after being the odd team out in that FCAC tournament. So,
and they've shown they can beat a team the caliber of Greenwich already.
Yep. So that'll be an interesting matchup there with Ridgefield. See how the Eagles hang. They're both on the opposite side of Darien as well. So I think Greenwich is probably in the best spot in this tournament with no FCAC teams before the semis and only 2 others on the same side of their bracket. But boys lacrosse shaping up, as always, to be a great state tournament. Let's take one more break. We're going to let John step aside. Great job over the weekend. We know we've got more from you coming up this week, so we'll see you soon. Kevin and I get back. We'll look at baseball, softball, FCAC champions, and the state tournaments that are coming up ahead. That's next on the HN Network.
Well, there's still a bite out on the water. Most anglers have decided to stow the gear for the winter. Just because Mother Nature isn't cooperating doesn't mean you can't see the latest models of all your favorite gear. With 2 convenient locations, it couldn't be easier to get your fix of summer. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, dockshop.com.
If you've ever thought about owning a motor coach or learning about what it's like to travel the open road in superior style and comfort, then contact Dave's RV Center in Danbury, Connecticut. Offering the best quality Class A motorhomes from Newmar, travel trailers and fifth wheel lines from Surveyor, and a toy hauler line from Work and Play. Choose from Newmar's Gas Line, Baystar and Canyon Star, or from Newmar's Diesel Line, Ventana and Dutch Star. And with unparalleled service and maintenance, Dave's RV is committed to keeping you and your motor coach safely on the road and enjoying it to the fullest. Stop by their showroom, 2 Industrial Plaza Road, Danbury, Connecticut, or call 877-483-3866.
Back on the HAN Network, Frank Granito with Kevin Coleman here on Nutmeg Sports. It's Tuesday, May 29th. We didn't have a chance, Kev, last week to congratulate our baseball and softball champions, Darien Blue Wave. 7-4, they defeat Staples in 8 innings. Arthur Xanthos, your MVP in that tournament. And then the big shocker, in my opinion, St. Joe's beating Trumbull 6-0 in softball. The Eagles laying a bit of an egg in that game, and we'll get to that in a minute. But let's start with baseball, with what right now is being called one of the better championship games we've had in recent years, if not, the past 15, 20.
And you look back at last year, Richfield and Wilton, how great that game was.
2 years ago, you had Darien with the walk-off over Trumbull there in the 8th inning. So Darien, not a team you want to play in extra innings in the championship game, but I won't rub it in your face. I called this one. Finally got one right here. But again, it was what we talked about. It was the pitching depth of Darien. Justin Vandegraff, Jordan Vaught combining for the win there. You think about the effort they got from their top 4 guys in this postseason. That's hard to match what those 4 put out there when you think about it.
It's difficult because and we talk about this all spring, Frank, because of the snow days, the rainouts, all the cancellations. Now all those playoff games got bunched together, and you're having starters. And you're right. That's why I give Coach Mike Scott a lot of credit, because you look at, he had to rely on Justin Jordan and Henry Williams to get him to at least the championship game. Those 2 guys did it on their own. And he had to throw out, he couldn't throw his 2 aces in the championship game. He kind of threw it out there, and Vaught did a terrific job coming in. And you don't see that very often in high school baseball. You don't.
Vandegraff,
the depth of pitching.
Vandegraff, in my opinion, one of the more underrated. One of the more underrated pitchers in this league, and it's because he's behind guys like Henry Williams and Justin Jordan. But he goes 5 2/3, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, had 3 strikeouts. Then Vaught comes in for the final 2 1/3, doesn't surrender a run. Arthur Xanthos was the MVP of this game, 2 for 5 with the game-winning RBI. Finn Batson, a big game. So Darien finds a way to beat out this Staples team. Now you think that they've got the 3 of the Big 4 championships here again. Obviously, you look back a couple of years where they won almost every championship, and you're not going to quite put it on par with that. But how great a spring is this for the Darien Blue Wave? Oh,
it's amazing. It's great. And yeah, you're right. I think maybe the one sport they wish they had it in this year again was boys volleyball. I know they took a little bit of a step back. Cheers to Staples, by the way, for beating Richfield. We'll talk about that in a bit. But this is impressive because of you look at the 2 lacrosses, which we always expect those 2 teams to be in the final. But for baseball to do it after winning 2 years ago, it seems like teams it just seems like it's hard to get back to that championship game again in a shorter period of time. And for Darien to do this again and to have guys who were on that roster to come back and do this again, they had the experience and they had the depth. I think them and Richfield were the 2 teams that had a lot of depth, especially in pitching. Look what happened to Richfield. I mean, they laid an egg. And now,
that's fair.
And
I don't disagree there.
And Darien comes up and, again, they're just showing their dominance in all spring sports again.
And it's funny because all eyes were on Staples throughout the year. They come off that state championship. Chad Knight is going to be considered one of the players of the year. They've got all these things working for him. Darien really could just they were flying under the radar. They were able to get out to this great start to the season, put themselves in a big position to make some noise, and then Listen, Mike Scott is far and away, in my opinion, the best manager when it gets to FCX playoff time. He's always going to put his team in a great spot in those Final Four, and they're always going to have a chance to get to the championship. They win again, their second title in 3 years. Before that, they won one back in 1985. In the state tournament, Stanford loses to Farmington 7-6 in a playdown game. Norwalk beats Naugatuck 9-3. Their reward will be to take on the #1 seed Fairfield Prep. Jesuits, Trumbull and Southington a matchup we'll keep an eye on. Simsbury gets McMahon. Wilton goes to East Hartford. New Canaan, Cheshire. A lot of FCX schools here. Big one today, Staples, West Hill. How do actually, two big ones right next to each other here. Staples, West Hill, Darien, Danbury. Winners are going to play each other. So this is literally just the FCX regional part of the bracket here. But you look at these two games, and it's how does Staples respond after the loss? Can they bounce back here in search to defend their state title? And did Darien use everything it had in the tank now against a Danbury team that we were very high on a week ago? And
Danbury was a team that, after Richfield got knocked out in the quarterfinals, was my pick to win it all. I think they're still very talented. This is a team like Danbury you do not want to face in any postseason game, but same could be said for Darien. That's going to be a terrific matchup between the Hatters and the Blue Wave. For Staples, I think they'll bounce back. I think this is a ball club that has the guys, including Chad Knight, that can respond after a tough loss in an FCX championship game. The one thing is they can't come out flat, and against a West Hill team that, underperformed is safe to say, I think, a little bit this year. I still think they're a dangerous team, especially on the road. And don't forget, too, that this is a matchup we saw in the States last year, 11-10 thriller. Staples on the way to that championship. So there's a little bit of a vendetta there for West Hill as they look to move forward. In softball, just quickly while we've got a second here, talking about that championship game, congrats to the Cadets. 6-0, they beat their rival Trumbull. Peyton Dorian throws the complete game, 3 hits, no earned runs. The one thing that stood out to me, the freshman Emily Gell, so good all year. I think the pressure of the championship got to her a little bit in this one. 11 hits, 6 runs, 5 of them earned, just 4 Ks. So she's going to have a great career. I think we will see her pitching again in an FCX championship game, but not the way she wanted her first one to go. Not the way the Eagles wanted to go, period. And there were some players on last year's team that I'm sure wanted to get back to this championship game and try and remake for what happened last year. And it's disappointing for the Eagles. I think this is going to be a tough pill to swallow. But you're right, Emily Gell's going to have a bright future. This is a Trumbull team that's still going to be able to be competitive and very competitive, can still be one of the top teams in FCX softball. What a great job by the St. Joe's Cadets to beat their rival. I think everyone was kind of expecting those two and hoping these two would get into the championship game to get that little crosstown rivalry in there. So it's nice for the Cadets, the big one, and that's a huge one to bring back to St. Joe's. Yeah, and you know what? At the beginning of the year, they were a team we really, really liked. We thought they would put out a good showing, and that is exactly what they did. As you mentioned, the Staples boys volleyball squad complete their perfect season. They are your FCX champions. We expect they'll be making a run towards a state title as well. We're going to catch up with those guys later in the week, Kevin. But we've got plenty more to come now as states get underway here in Connecticut. Congrats to all of our FCX champions. Great job by all the athletes in this 2017-2018 FCX season. For Kevin Coleman, John Kovac, I'm Frank Granito. We'll see you next time on the HN Network.